Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth webinar of the Global Parliament of Mayors, the third this fall. And today we will have a conversation with Mayor Brian Barnett. My name is Eric Corrain, and I'm the Director of Policy and Research of the Global Parliament of Mayors. We're going to discuss today mainly about the position of cities and the urban in the actual United States of America. And Mayor Barnett is mayor of Rochester Hills, the north of Detroit, Michigan, since 2006, so nearly 20 years mayor. He served as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors in 2019, 2020, and now he's the newly elected chair of our Global Parliament of Mayors. So welcome, Mr. Brian Barnett. I'm very happy to receive us in our webinars today. May I maybe immediately start with the first, let's say, question. We are not acquainted that well with the way mayors and urbanity functions in the United States. So because we have a global audience today, maybe you can introduce us to your city, to the situation of mayors in the US and how they function. Welcome, really, to this conversation.
Well, thank you, Eric, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the folks that are joining us around the globe. It's a privilege to be here and to share a little bit about my city, myself, and really what I think is the important role that we all have in preserving and fighting for democracy across the globe. I think it's an exciting time to be in local government. It's an exciting time to be a mayor, and I am thrilled about the work that the GPM has been doing, and even more excited about what I think are the next few steps and the impact that GPM can have around the globe. But before we get to that, let me maybe share a little bit about myself and about my city. As Eric mentioned, some quick stats about my community. I have a brief presentation, and at the end, I'll talk a little bit about the situation in the U.S. because it is, very, very interesting. It's very challenging times for local government, and I think it's probably not unusual globally, but it perhaps is a little bit here in the U.S. Let me start with my city. I'm blessed to be the mayor of Rochester Hills, which I think is the best job in the world. We have an incredible community. For my spatial spot, as was mentioned, we are located in the state of Michigan, just north of the city of Detroit, about 20 minutes outside of the city of Detroit. You see a map there, not too far from our friends and neighbors in Chicago and Toronto. And somewhat uniquely here, we're just about 30 minutes from the border of Canada. So we do a tremendous amount of work with our neighbors in Canada. Canada is Michigan's largest trading partner. And so many of our residents commute back and forth, and Canadians commute back and forth to work in our region, and we do in theirs. So we're very close with our neighbors in Canada, especially here in Michigan. My city is about 80,000 people. We're one of the larger cities in the state of Michigan, and Michigan is one of the larger states in the country. We have a population of just over 10 million people. Which makes us pretty politically important. We are considered a swing state in most elections. And so there's a lot of attention on our state when it comes to the national political story, because we tend to be one of only about 7 states that really decides the presidential election. To tell you a little bit more about my city, I have, city is so many things. Each of you leads cities as well. We have sort of a 1-minute video that kind of gives you a highlight to some of the things in Rochester Hills. So take a look. And that has sort of always been my goal ever since I became mayor, was to make my city the preeminent place to live, work, and raise a family. And, like I said, I've been blessed to do that in my community. I have two boys. They are now old enough to vote for me. When I first was elected, I had to hold them in my arms. So, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. My community is really exceptional. I see some pictures. City Hall is in the middle where I'm coming to you from at the moment. And our city has about an annual budget of about 250 million US dollars. I have about 500 to 600 full and part-time employees throughout the course of the year. Of course, we have a full-time 5 fire stations in the city. We have, did I lose the?
Disabled share.
Oh. I think the host, I think you might have disabled the ability to share the video here. Do you still see the slides?
No. No.
Just one second here. I want to make sure we still have the videos here, or the pictures. Can you enable my sharing, Eric, please?
Yes, please try that again now.
All right, are we back?
Okay, yeah, we're back.
Okay, thank you. So about $250 million budget, about 500 to 600 employees. Obviously, all of the different things that a city is known for, from the Department of Public Services, managing the infrastructure, water and sewer and roads, to planning and economic development, to everything from cemeteries and parklands and all the things that a city is known for. Obviously, I'm responsible for. We have a strong mayor form of government here in the city of Rochester Hills. It's somewhat unique in the United States, which means we don't have a city manager. I am responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city, and I'm elected directly by the residents of the city of Rochester Hills. So many U.S. cities have what's called a city manager form, and they have a city manager running the day-to-day, with a mayor being more of a figurehead. In my city, I actually run the day-to-day, and it really is truly a full-time job. The city's done very, very well. Just in the last 12 months, we've been recognized with a litany of awards, not just in the state of Michigan, but across the country. We've been recognized as the #1 best place to live in Michigan, the 9th best place to live in the U.S. There's about 39,000 cities, over 15,000 people in the country. An important one to me is that we were ranked the safest city to live in the state of Michigan and the 5th safest place to live anywhere in the U.S. So we put a lot of time and energy, and I hope to talk more about that globally, about what you do to make your community safe. So much about a community starts with people's ability to feel safe within it. And then just recently, we were ranked one of the best places, one of the top 20 places to retire in the United States. So we've done really, really well, not just locally, but as ranked by our peers nationally. Our tagline is innovative by nature, and I'll break that down for just a minute, because I think both parts of that are really important. Everything you see that comes out of the city is branded innovative by nature. Every sign as you enter, every business card that's handed out. And the innovative side is important. I think it speaks to a lot of the work that the Global Parliament of Mayors is doing. First of all, we have 2 significant universities in our community. Oakland University is about 18,000 students. It's where I graduated from years ago, was student body president there, kind of launched my career in civic engagement. And then Rochester Christian University, a smaller Christian university. And the city has 2 school districts. And the Rochester Community School District in particular is always ranked in one of the top 10 districts in the state of Michigan. We have a community that loves education, embraces it. This is wonderful and challenging at the same time, that 60% of my residents have at least a bachelor's degree. It means we can communicate with them at a very high level, but it also means there's a very high demand for excellent customer service, which is something that we're constantly challenged with. But it does indicate that we have a strong love and an embrace of education. Interestingly enough, we have more than a patent a day that is applied for and received by a Rochester Hills resident or business. So again, that innovative core of our community is really important. And then somewhat notably, we have more robots made in our city than anywhere else on our continent. So you can kind of get a flavor for the kinds of folks and people that live and work in my community. It leads to a very vibrant business community. We have now close to 2,000 businesses in the city, and we welcome about 2 new businesses every week to our community, businesses from a very global standpoint. We have a large presence of French and German businesses. We have a French incubator in the city with about a dozen small incubator businesses. and a large group of Asian businesses, mostly Japanese companies as well. So we really are all over the globe as it relates to who does business here. Most of it largely centered around the automotive industry. Of course, if you know Detroit, we're the city that put the world on wheels, and many of our folks work in the automotive industries or industries that support the automotive work or the automotive industry. The nature part of it is just as important to me, the innovative by nature. We have over 1,000 acres of parkland in the city. And last year we had over 1.7 million people visit our parks, one of the most robust park systems and green spaces in the city, or excuse me, in the state. You see a picture here of one of our more popular parks. That was called Innovation Hills, a park that I developed, or our team developed over the last few years. It's been voted Michigan's coolest playground, which is important if you're 5, 6, 7, or 8 anywhere in the state of Michigan, and it's one of our prized locations. But again, we will welcome close to 2 million people to our park system this year, and I think parks are really important in terms of showing what a community values and how you value community interaction and community space. We're known for pretty innovative community projects. This particular project here is a small downtown section in the southeastern corner of our city. It was a fast road. Nobody walked down it or rode their bikes on it. We took it over, slowed the speeds, added infrastructure, added art, added roundabouts, created a splash pad, and now it's one of the most vibrant spots in our community, a long-time civic project that took a lot of work. We're continually adding parks. I just announced this new developments, a $15 million park that we'll be building next year, because I want my city to have the best park system in a 10-state region. That's my passion every day. And this is our next effort. We just announced this in the last couple of weeks. This park will be developed next year. We just opened up a new park last week. So we're constantly trying to infuse our city with unique places for families to gather. We tend to be a very family-oriented community with good schools, safe neighborhoods, and the parks certainly supplement that. So my story is maybe a little bit unique. And I'm always interested and love talking with mayors and meeting mayors, because to me, there's always an interesting story. There's some moment where they decided to jump into civic life, into civic engagement. And that certainly for me happened when I was in college here at Oakland University. I fell in love with public service and with the ability to help create change and to make my community better, whatever that meant. I didn't even know really necessarily what that meant, but was elected very young. I was elected to my city council when I was 23 and then became mayor when I was 29. That swearing in ceremony on the left of your screen is my very first moments as mayor. I always joke, you can see the folks that voted for me by the smiles and those that voted against me with the frowns behind me. But that was a city council election where I won my first election by 1 vote. And then uniquely enough, Eric, our city has 8-year term limits, but I'm in my 19th year because our city charter allows you to run as a write-in candidate, and I have been successful as a write-in candidate 3 times. Really the only person in modern-day American political history that's ever won 3 citywide write-in campaigns. That means your name's not even on the ballot, but people take the time to look at the names that are on the ballot, fill in the circle, and write my name in. And I've been incredibly blessed to continue my service. I love working with mayors. I work with mayors all the time, all over the country, because I think mayors and local government is where it's actually absolutely happening. It's where the action is. It's where progress and innovation is occurring. This is a podcast I did, and you can see it's called How to Run a City. And while we are partisan at our federal and state levels, one of the unique things about mayors, most mayors are nonpartisan. They don't run as Republicans or Democrats. They run as problem solvers and innovative thinkers. And we often say in America, there's no Republican or Democratic way to fix a pothole or to plow a street or to invest. And so we really value that. This is a podcast I did a week ago with the mayors of Atlanta and Philadelphia. And that's really important to me. As you mentioned, probably a career highlight for me was being recognized by my colleagues as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. That's where all the nation's mayors select one mayor each year to represent them. I had a wonderful opportunity. It was during a presidential election cycle. So the beginning part of the year was fantastic. Travel all over the country and all over the world talking about democracy and the issues that matter to America's cities. But then COVID hit and really was focused on supporting our nation's cities as we went through this incredibly challenging time of the pandemic. This was about the last press conference I did in DC just before the pandemic hit and how we were preparing. I was on Operation Warp Speed, one of 5 mayors and 5 governors that were part of the distribution of vaccines at the time. Obviously, my work involves working with the White House very regularly, very close relationship with President Biden and currently with President Trump. That's very important. I am like to work with anyone who will work with me and believe that bipartisan cooperation is a hallmark of mayors. I am a Republican mayor, but I've spoken out when I think things don't make sense for America's cities. Obviously, most recently about the challenge of tariffs nationally and globally, frankly. And so I do quite a bit of media on things. I'm often seen as a go-to source for national discussions. And as again, my loyalty is always to my residents and my community, not to any particular party, because that's who I fight for. And my city is very diverse. And so it's really important to me to focus and support things that make sense for my community, not just for what's partisan. The last thing that maybe tells you a little bit about myself, I'm kind of known for having some of the more wild state of the city addresses. I've rappelled from the ceiling playing guitar. I've done all sorts of crazy things. One year I was an 80s DJ and the whole thing was set to music. My most recent one was State of the City was the one you see in the center of your screen, to Wicked, where we talked about how a city needs strength, courage, and heart to be successful, much like the characters of The Wizard of Oz and the movie Wicked. I love to tell stories in pretty unique and fun ways and really recognize that as a benefit of being mayor and having a really cool opportunity to share. As I said, I think I have the best job in the world. I think being in local government, this is a picture of whoever was in City Hall that day. Like I said, we have hundreds and hundreds of more people. I stand on their shoulders, really, and get to represent my community in the best way I know how, and that is just really to fight for democracy and to advance, to give everyone hopefully a chance at a wonderful life here in my community. And so hopefully that shares with you a little bit more about my background and about some of the passions that I'll bring and some of the experience that I hope to bring in joining this incredibly talented GPM team.
Wow, this is quite impressive, I have to say. Now, before widening and discussing about the states, I would like to ask you one more question about Rochester, because I was impressed also by the number of graduates. You say you have a very highly educated population, which of course, as you said, is demanding, and so let's say the local state has to deliver to such people. But maybe it's also an opportunity for, let's say, practical democratic co-production, participation, collaboration. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about that aspect of, let's say, rooted democracy in your city?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. As I kind of hinted, it can be both a blessing and a challenge. The blessing is that we can communicate with folks in a lot of different ways. Our folks are generally savvy. They're looking for good governance. If you ask them for suggestions, they'll give them to you. They very much want to participate in the process. We've gotten a lot of great, we've made a lot of good things better because we've engaged a very educated, talented constituent base to share how we want to make things happen. The challenge is, and I say this to my team, is that I always say that our competition isn't maybe neighboring cities. Our competition tends to be places that really do customer service well. Amazon, for example, if Amazon can deliver anything you want, a yellow highlighter to your house in 4 hours, but it takes 3 weeks to get a building permit, people are frustrated. They want government to work at the pace of the private sector. And if you can get something this quick online, then why can't you get a dog license, or why can't you get a building permit? And so we often have to compare ourselves to those private sector folks because our residential and customer base essentially is used to really excellent customer service. So we compare ourselves against the Amazons, the Disneys, the Nordstroms, those folks globally, or folks nationally here that do customer service really, really well because ultimately I think mayors are in the customer service business. We have to make sure we are taking care of our residents, everything from public safety, making sure that they have, that they feel safe in their homes at night, to educational opportunities, pathways to increase their ability to enjoy their station in life, and ultimately all the way through retirement, giving them a place to feel secure and learn in place. So I think that's a really important aspect. And I recognize, again, that we're blessed, but there's also real challenges that our leadership here has to face every single day.
Yeah, but that's mostly about what the let's say the local state has to deliver. But also, do you have something like, I don't know, neighborhood councils, or is there a way for a citizen to participate outside of having an elected position or an official position? Is there an animation of the population and parts of self-government or influencing what you do or don't do?
Yeah. We have a very active governance model. If I didn't say this, I have a 7-member city council, which obviously work together. They're sort of the legislative end of it. I don't vote on the council, but I have veto authority and veto power over the council. Outside of the council, we have probably about 250 residents that sit on different boards and commissions. Those aren't elected. Those are just appointed folks. I appoint some, the city council appoints some. We have probably about 75 homeowner associations in the city, again, at the most very local level of neighborhood leadership. And then there's just a tremendous amount of other opportunities for people to serve. We have a very vibrant nonprofit culture here, with a lot of folks that serve both in the city and on nonprofit boards to assist the city's core work. So you're right, Eric. There is a tremendous amount of civic participation. It doesn't always, we just had an election and we don't always have as many people come out and vote. But, for a national election, we'll be at 80% of the people that will participate. That's a pretty significant number. We usually tend to be one of the highest participating communities. For the last census, we were in the top 5 participating communities in the country. So that educated base activates itself politically. That can be great when they're supportive of you, but can also be challenging when they don't like something the city's doing.
Exactly. Well, let's say widen a bit the focus now and look at the situation of cities in the States and the position of mayors. I mean, from outside, from over the ocean, what we sense is a kind of increased tension between cities and the federal state. When the National Guard was sent to LA, Washington, Memphis, and other cities, so the first impression is not that there's some tension in the air. And then you also had the election and the whole campaign in New York, which also is global news, of course, with the election of Zoran Mandani. So introduce us a bit about what is the situation in the actual regime for cities, developing urbanity.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting question, and it's changing dramatically. President Trump is a dynamic individual, and I use dynamic in every sense of the word. If you had seen the headlines of today's paper, this weekend's news, it's that you'd think that Mayor-elect Mandani and President Trump are best of friends. Yes. They had a meeting at the White House and talked about how much they're going to support each other. You couldn't imagine that article a month ago, as they both fired shots at each other pretty dramatically. So it is a wildly changing environment here, especially with President Trump, kind of charting seemingly a different course weekly. That's been true in tariffs. That's been true in a lot of issues. What encourages me, and what I hope is something that I think the GPM has always stood for, and is sort of a clarion call in terms of grounding us, is that I am an ardent believer that the best decisions are made at the most local level. And, I will fight for that and stand alongside most mayors. I think that's what you see a lot of mayors talking about. I'm friends with Mayor Bass in LA and some of the other places, Mayor Johnson in Chicago, where there have been these issues about what role the federal government should play in security, what role they should play, pick your issue. And we all stand with each other, Republicans and Democrats, basically saying, listen, the folks that know what's happening most are the mayors. They're the local leaders. And an interesting fact that sort of backs us up that I think is really helpful to note is that in study after study, every year, every time the study is asked, when they ask folks, who do you trust most? Your federal government, your state government, your county government, or your local government? Local government wins almost 3-1 over the next closest. So we have a certain level of trust that people have in us because they can see us, they can touch us, they can feel us, my city is 36 square miles. So I'm not more than a 10-minute drive. If someone wants to come see me, a 10-minute drive from anybody in my city, and they can share something they like, share something they don't like. And that feel of connection is really important to them. So they generally trust me and my leadership team to make decisions because they know we are most connected. And every level of government that you get away from that, I think the decisions get largely worse. And so you'll see Republicans and Democratic mayors arguing against Republican and Democratic governors and presidents that every decision, as much as possible, should be made at the most local level because we want to take that trust, we want to use that local knowledge, and we want to do what we think is best for our community. So whether it's distribution of tax dollars, whether it's educational resources or economic opportunity, security, every mayor feels they know how to secure their community better than the federal government because they live it, they walk it, they shop in it, they go to church in it, all those sorts of things. So you'll see I think we're in a very interesting time. The battle between federalism and localism is one that goes back to our nation's founding. That's not new, but the players and the voices that are sounding those alarms are new, and they tend to be a little bit more vocal than they have in the past. But I can tell you that mayors are really united in this across the country, and I think across the globe. Federal governments change, and those players, again, it's a really wild dynamic what we see happening globally. But what hasn't changed, I think, is the connection mayors have with their communities, and that is something that the GPM, I think, has been excellent about tapping into and understanding. That is how you protect and enhance democracy globally.
Yeah, clear. That's very, very clear analysis. But how much are you in the States as a city dependent of the state or the federal level to function? Can you? I mean, is your tax policy, is that a local policy? Can you really decide on increasing or decreasing taxes, for instance? So income-wise, because of course, in our situation in Europe, but in other places also, in Africa even more, there is a big dependence of the state or different state levels. How is the situation in the US then?
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting question. I mean, in some ways, we're wildly dependent. I mean, I don't get to set tariff policy. So, when tariffs are leveled and then changed and then leveled again, and there's so much uncertainty, my businesses feel the immediate impact of that, and therefore the city feels the impact of that as well. So, on many issues, we are wildly dependent on the federal government. But in tax policy, of my $250 million budget, only a small portion comes from state and federal sources. I'd say probably 15%. So it still gives me the ability, and my council the ability to chart an economic path for our community. If we want to propose a tax question to increase firefighters or increase police support, we can do that. We don't need any federal permission or any state permission to do that. So there is still a large autonomy as it relates to economic policy in the tax policy component. But again, if the country, again, tariffs. I'll give an example with our friends in Canada. Because there's sort of been a little bit of a rub, and Canada's always been one of our closest allies. We've seen a challenge in the manufacturing side of things. We've seen a decrease in the demand for automobiles. We've also seen a decrease in Canadian tourism, which is a big component of it. And so, these national discussions where federal leaders kind of point at each other and fight has a ripple effect all the way down to the local level, where our hotels, where our resort areas that are usually filled with Canadians in the summer and in the winter farther south in our country are down 20, 25%, because there's angst between our nations at the federal level. And that's the challenge that we always have to have. We always have to work together collaboratively and share our voice in a very clear and our concerns in a very clear and concise way. But we still, of course, are very much tied to the challenges that our federal government presents us.
The tension that you describe is, I mean, we in Europe, we have the same kind of increased tension between the local and the national in a certain way. I mean, if the nation states, or if the federal level in your case wants to take more control of the local, there is this kind of, well, intervention also of the state. How do you think this tension is gonna evolve? Because you are a big, I mean, supporter of local democracy, of proximity, as let's say the how would I say, the representation of the local, and then you have this kind of tensions of different kinds that seem to increase with federal or with other levels of the state, even in Europe, the European Commission sometimes. So how do we have to relate to that increased tension and as a defense of democracy and proximity?
Yeah, well, again, it's a beautifully framed question, and one that probably our forefathers in local government have been fighting and battling and asking for decades here and centuries where you're from. And it's one that we probably will grapple with for a long time moving forward. Here's what I know. I know that I'm never going to give up the fight, because I have seen the impact of local government and the ability I have to impact change. And again, I think the unique thing is that when put to a test, if I were to go out and ask my residents, who do you trust to make the best decisions for you right now moving forward, my folks would say our local government, my mayor. They're not going to say Washington, and they might not say Brussels or Paris or London or wherever it might be in Europe as well. And I think that's something that we have to take out and walk. We have to show that we've got the trust of the people, and then we have the ability to make these changes and can be trusted with the ability to do these things moving forward. I look at what's happening in the United States, and you see people like, let's say, organizations that want to do something. If you want to affect a minimum wage, you don't go to Washington and try to change minimum wage. You go to cities, you try to get minimum wage changed in a local city, and then you take that city's success and you try to get a whole state to say, listen, you've got now 3 cities that have changed it. Now the state needs to do it. So you see this ground up sort of movement of social issues. You also see it happening with the nonprofits, the Bloombergs of the world, the philanthropist communities aren't working with federal governments as much. They're working with locals to try to say, listen, if we can incubate something here, a successful program in Rochester Hills or in Tucson or in Orlando, we can then take that model, because there's less resistance. We don't have to work with 200 Republicans and 200 Democrats. We have to work with one innovative mayor to try to get something done. And then we can take that success and then we can show how we've done something in a local community and then do that nationally. So here in the US, so many things, both people that want to see things change socially and people that want to see things change politically, now start at the local level and move up. And I think that I don't see how that's going to change. I mean, our national politics are, we're gearing up for a big election next year in 2026. The control of the House will be up for grabs, many Senate seats. I mean, it's a midterm election, and every side's already drawing their lines. And progress, innovation, technology doesn't wait for politics. It moves quickly. And so it's going to go where people will move quickly with it. And to me, I think that's absolutely local government.
Well, thank you very much for these answers. Well, we're moving to the end of this webinar because you have other assignments in more or less 10 minutes. So let's move to the last, let's say, question, but for us very interesting. Of course, you are the newly elected chair of the Global Parliament of Mayors, and you know that the GPM is, of course, oriented to empowering cities in the global system as a partner in multilateral governance. Well, how do you assess the situation globally, and what will be your central focus in the next few months under your leadership?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a tremendous honor to be in this position and to I think to be the first American to hold a chairperson role. And I want to recognize the incredible chairs of the past, Mayor Rio, Mayor Kurtz, and others that have done a tremendous job. Listen, you know, I am not a global expert by any means. I do spend a lot of time internationally, and I am focused on subnational diplomacy. But you know, I know enough to know that the mayor of Mannheim knows a lot more about Mannheim than I do. You know, some of the mayors that we have in the Gambia and other places are really local experts as well. And so what I hope to do is what I think the GPM is really good at, and that is to share the best ideas that we have and execute those in a way that improves humanity globally. I think that is a tremendous role for the GPM, to be an opportunity to hear a safe place to talk about the challenges that we face and the successes we've had in dealing with some of those challenges. And then, especially in places like my city, where my city is very fortunate and is probably, you know, in better shape than many that may be in the global South. You know, there is a responsibility to share what we've learned about democracy and, you know, 250 hard fought years here in the United States, and try to take what's best of that and plant some of those seeds in the innovative minds of leaders of some of these communities, while learning from them at the same time. GPM has a unique role. I think we're going to be really focused on partners that we can collaborate with to amplify our message. But ultimately, our message is clear. It's to enhance and empower cities and to enhance and empower democracy in every corner of this globe. And I'm excited to work with the team, excited to meet a lot of other mayors who are doing the same thing, and hopefully be inspired by them. I think my city will be a better place ultimately the more that I learn from GPM. And that's what I want others to say a year from now. Listen, my engagement with GPM has made me a better mayor and has made my city a better place for my inhabitants because of a trick, a tool, a relationship, something I learned along the way. And I think that's a good goal for all of us, Eric, very truthfully.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to the next years with under your leadership. I know you have to go, so it's a pity we cannot go on long with this conversation. I have to thank you for this open conversation, answering the questions. It's the last webinar of this fall, this year's. I wish you, Mayor Barnett, but also all our listeners, a nice end of the year, a happy ending, and a happy new year. We will come back with a new series of webinars in spring and discussing different topics of GPM, because as Mayor Barnett, of course, knows and is going to continue, we are working on 4 pillars. Enhancing democracy, empowering cities, developing models of caring cities, and then a special focus also on art and culture in the different cities. Mayor Barnett, thank you very much for this conversation, and well, we'll meet soon in Exco and other meetings, and yes, I'll give you of course, the last word for this webinar.
Well, Eric, thank you, Pedro and Rainier, for your leadership of the GPM. We appreciate it. I just dropped my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions or would like to get in touch with me for any reason throughout the year, my email is there. Obviously, I'm on WhatsApp and pretty easily reached. I think one of the best things we can do as a network is continue to keep really good open communication between us. And like I said, the one thing I always find interesting and unique, and maybe some of the other mayors can agree, is you always go into a year with a plan of what you hope to accomplish, and then life happens, and you end up working on a lot of other things. At this time last year, I was not focused on tariffs or the impacts on tariffs. And I spent a lot of time this year talking with colleagues and learning the industry and talking with my business leaders about the impacts of tariffs. I don't know necessarily what 2026 is going to bring globally, but I'm excited to work with the other mayors, the strong academic support that we have at the GPM with folks like you, Eric, and others, to whatever those challenges might be, to rise with my colleagues with an innovative and problem-solving spirit to meet those challenges head on. And I look forward to doing that. And so I'm going to leave you here. We're going to light our community Christmas tree a little bit later here today and celebrate community with the tens of thousands of my friends and neighbors. But I do wish all of you here in this week in America of Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this GPM leadership team, and look forward to working with all of you in the months and years to come. So God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you.